My parents handed over our $9 million property to my sister-in-law, telling me to stay out of it. They said I was causing trouble, a meddler in family affairs. But deep down, I knew this wasn't right. I refused to just watch everything I helped build slip away. What they didn't expect was that I had a plan that would change everything and turn the tables forever. My name is Rachel, and I'm 33 years old. I'm a lawyer living in Chicago, a city that shaped who I am, relentless and determined. Growing up, my family was always close-knit. My parents owned a sizable real estate portfolio properties spread across the Midwest. Since I was a teenager, I helped my parents manage some of these assets. Whether it was reviewing contracts, checking on rental agreements, or even negotiating small deals, I was their go-to person. While I chose law as my career path, my passion for the family business ran just as deep. Our family estate was more than just a collection of buildings and land. It was a legacy, a symbol of my parents' hard work and sacrifice. My parents immigrated here decades ago with nothing but a dream and unshakable resolve. They built everything from the ground up. I always admired their grit and commitment, and I wanted to honor that by ensuring our family assets were protected and managed responsibly. For years, I balanced my career as a corporate lawyer with my role in the family business. Every weekend, I'd visit properties, meet tenants, and attend meetings with contractors. I was invested emotionally and financially. My parents trusted me completely often, asking for my legal opinion before making important decisions. They always said they valued my insight and dedication. But despite my involvement, something shifted after my brother's engagement to Emily, a woman I initially thought would be a great addition to the family. Emily was charming and seemingly supportive, and for a while, I welcomed her with open arms. However, over time, cracks appeared. I noticed Emily subtly influencing my parents' decisions, often behind closed doors. She had an uncanny ability to sow doubt and suspicion, painting me as someone who was overstepping my bounds. The tension grew quietly at first. Family dinners became awkward conversations curt. I found myself being excluded from meetings where my expertise was once sought after. It was a confusing and painful shift. I was still the same person, yet suddenly I was the outsider. Then came the day that changed everything. My parents called an unexpected family meeting. I thought it would be about a new investment, or perhaps a legal matter needing my advice. Instead, they announced that they were transferring the ownership of one of our most valuable properties, a $9 million estate that had been in the family for years, to Emily, my sister-in-law. No discussion, no explanation. And when I questioned them, I was met with coldness. They accused me of meddling, of disrupting family harmony. They told me I was quarrelsome and that I should stay out of their affairs. It felt like a punch to the gut. All my years of loyalty and hard work were dismissed in an instant. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about a property. It was about trust betrayal and the unraveling of a family bond I thought was unbreakable. The house, the land, the legacy, all handed over without my consent, without even a proper conversation. Chicago, the city I call home, had taught me to fight for what's right. And even if the people closest to me had turned their backs, I knew I couldn't just walk away. The stakes were too high and the injustice too glaring. So I decided to dig deeper, to use every ounce of my legal knowledge to uncover how this transfer happened and whether it could be challenged. It was the beginning of a battle. I never expected one that would test not only my skills, but also my resilience and heart. Looking back, it was clear that this was more than a family dispute. It was a power struggle, masked as a gift, a calculated move to sideline me. But I wasn't about to let this chapter close without a fight. My parents' legacy, my family's future, it was all on the line. The moment my parents handed over that $9 million property to Emily, I felt as if the ground beneath me was slipping away. It wasn't just about the property. It was about the message they were sending. I was being pushed out sideline, treated like a problem rather than a daughter who had devoted years to the family's success. But what hurt most was how quickly everyone else seemed to accept it. Emily's sudden rise in the family's favor wasn't accidental. From the day she moved in, I noticed the subtle ways she manipulated conversations, planting seeds of doubt in my parents' minds. Rachel's too involved, she'd say, behind closed doors. She's trying to control everything. It was a narrative that gained traction, especially with my father, who was growing older and perhaps more vulnerable to influence. I was accused of quarreling and causing tension. Family gatherings that once felt warm and welcoming became arenas where I was met with icy stares and whispered conversations. Invitations to important meetings where my legal expertise was once valued stopped coming altogether. One particularly painful memory stands out. At a family dinner, I tried to discuss concerns about property management with my mother. Instead of engaging, she brushed me off with a curt, "Rachel, please don't make this more difficult than it has to be." That night, I left feeling invisible, a shadow in my own family. The official transfer of the property only deepened the divide. The legal documents were prepared hastily with little explanation. I wasn't consulted, nor was I given a chance to review the terms. When I asked my parents about it, they said the decision was final and insisted I respect it. They told me to stay out of matters that no longer concerned me, but the property wasn't just a piece of land or a building. It was a symbol of the family's legacy, a legacy I helped protect and grow. Watching it slip away to someone who didn't share the same history or commitment was unbearable. Emily's control over the estate brought sweeping changes. Tenants I once knew personally were replaced. Renovations started without proper approvals. Contracts were signed without transparency. It felt like the heart of our family was being erased. My siblings took sides, some openly supporting Emily, others too scared to speak up. I was painted as the troublemaker, the one who couldn't accept change. The family I once thought unbreakable was fracturing before my eyes. I tried to reach out to my parents, hoping to find a way to repair the damage. But every conversation ended with the same cold refusal. They warned me that continuing to interfere would only make things worse, that I was risking more than just property disputes. I was risking the family itself. Yet I knew in my heart that this wasn't about protecting the family. It was about exclusion, betrayal, and control. I wasn't going to let my voice be silenced or my role erased. The more I was pushed away, the more determined I became to uncover the truth behind the transfer. Something about the whole process felt off. The haste, the secrecy, the legal irregularities, I could sense them all. And as a lawyer, I was trained to spot these red flags. But it wasn't just legal battles ahead. This was personal. The fight to reclaim what was rightfully ours meant confronting people I loved, navigating a minefield of emotions and family politics. It meant standing alone at times, facing judgment and isolation. Still, I reminded myself why I started this journey: to protect my family's legacy, to honor my parents' hard work, and to restore justice. I wasn't just fighting for property, I was fighting for respect, for truth, and for my place in the family. As the walls closed in and the whispers grew louder, I knew this was only the beginning of a long, painful battle. But I was ready, ready to face the storm, to challenge the lies, and to reclaim what was stolen. Because sometimes karma has a way of finding those who think they're untouchable, and I was about to make sure of it. After the property transfer, my life felt like it was unraveling piece by piece. What started as quiet exclusion quickly spiraled into outright rejection and emotional pain. I never imagined I'd endure from my own family. The first shock came during the next family meeting, the one I had begged to be a part of, hoping for at least a chance to voice my concerns or present legal arguments. But when I arrived, I was met with cold eyes and closed doors. Literally. The meeting was held behind a closed door, and my name wasn't even mentioned in the agenda. I waited outside, heart pounding, hoping someone would come out and let me in. But no one did. Later, my mother told me I wasn't welcome, that this was a private family matter. The irony stung. The very property I helped manage was being discussed without me. At that point, the tension had become suffocating. My phone calls and messages to my parents went unanswered, or were met with curt replies. The family dinners I once cherished were replaced with cold silences or pointed avoidance. It felt like I was fading from their lives. Emily, who I once thought might become a sister, became my greatest adversary. She seemed to relish the new power she held. At gatherings, she would make subtle jabs, disguised as jokes, remarks about me being too pushy or always stirring trouble. Her smile never reached her eyes, and it was clear she enjoyed watching me struggle. One painful day stands out in my memory like a deep scar. It was my father's birthday, a day that should have been filled with love and celebration. Instead, I arrived at the party only to find that I was deliberately seated far from the main table. No one made room for me, and when I tried to approach, I was met with cold stares or hushed whispers. At one point, my father gave me a forced smile, but said, "Rachel, you need to accept that things have changed. This family has moved on." Those words shattered me. The man who once relied on me now acted like I was a stranger. As days turned to weeks, the emotional toll became unbearable. I lost sleep. My anxiety deepened, and I felt isolated in my own home city of Chicago. Even my closest friends could barely understand the complexity of the pain, how family betrayal cuts deeper than any professional setback. Worse still, I started hearing stories of what was happening behind the scenes with the property. Emily was making reckless decisions, signing contracts without due diligence, hiring questionable contractors, even jeopardizing long-term tenants. I felt helpless, watching everything I cared about being dismantled piece by piece. Then came the darkest moment. One evening, I received a call from one of the tenants, an elderly couple who had been in the property for years. They were distraught, explaining that Emily had suddenly raised their rent by 40%, leaving them scrambling to find a new home. Hearing their desperation broke my heart. It was a vivid reminder that this wasn't just a family feud. People's lives were being affected. On top of that, I was increasingly ostracized at every turn. Invitations stopped coming for family holidays or celebrations. When I tried to reach out, I was met with silence or outright rejection. The weight of rejection was crushing. I cried more times than I can count, feeling like a ghost in my own family's story. Nights were the hardest, lying awake wondering how love and trust could be so easily replaced with betrayal and coldness. But amid the pain, I started to realize something important. This wasn't just about being hurt or excluded. It was about standing up for myself and what was right. I couldn't let this injustice define me or destroy my family's legacy. I remembered the lessons from law school and every case I had worked on knowledge was power and evidence was everything. Determined, I began gathering every piece of documentation related to the property transfer. I reviewed contracts, bank statements, emails looking for any irregularities or breaches of trust. It was exhausting and emotionally draining, but I knew it was the only way forward. During this time, I also faced the reality that my parents had been manipulated. Emily's influence was strong, and my parents seemed blind to it. It was heartbreaking to see the people I loved most making decisions that hurt me deeply, seemingly unaware of the damage being done. The isolation deepened, but my resolve grew stronger. I knew that if I could find even the smallest legal loophole or mistake in the transfer process, I could challenge it. And maybe, just maybe, bring my family back together, or at least reclaim what was rightfully ours. At my lowest point, I reached out to a mentor, a senior attorney who had guided me early in my career. She listened patiently as I poured out my story, the betrayal, the heartbreak, and my desire for justice. Her advice was clear, Rachel. You have the skills and the heart. Use them. But don't lose yourself in this fight. Remember why you're doing it, not just for the property, but for your dignity and your family's future. That conversation reignited a spark inside me. I wasn't just fighting a legal battle. I was fighting for respect, love, and justice. With renewed determination, I prepared to take on the fight of my life. After weeks of relentless research and sleepless nights, I finally found what I had suspected all along: the property transfer was riddled with legal irregularities. The contracts were hastily drafted signatures obtained under questionable circumstances and key clauses blatantly overlooked. Emily and her allies thought they had won, but they didn't realize that I wasn't just any daughter. I was a lawyer, one who knew how to fight dirty when necessary, but also how to wield the law like a sword. My plan was clear: expose the fraud, reclaim the property, and make sure everyone involved in the deception faced consequences. First, I carefully documented every violation. The transfer agreement lacked proper disclosures about existing leases, which meant tenants had legal grounds to challenge the new management. More importantly, I discovered that my parents' signatures had been secured without full transparency about the transfer's financial implications. I hired an independent forensic accountant to analyze the financial transactions linked to the property. The report revealed suspicious payments made to contractors connected to Emily, clear evidence of conflicts of interest and potential embezzlement. Armed with this evidence, I filed a formal petition to the court requesting the transfer be voided on grounds of fraud and undue influence. I anticipated that Emily's camp would fight back, but I was ready. The legal battle was grueling. Emily hired expensive attorneys and tried to discredit me by portraying me as a bitter, disgruntled family member. But I stood firm, presenting my case with clarity and professionalism. What surprised me most was the reaction of my parents. Initially distant and resistant, they began to see the cracks in Emily's story as the truth came to light. My mother especially was devastated to realize she had been manipulated. The turning point came during a heated court hearing when I presented the forensic accountant's report. The judge was visibly concerned about the extent of the irregularities and ordered an immediate freeze on the property's management. Outside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. Emily's confident facade cracked as she faced public scrutiny. The family was divided, and whispers of betrayal and greed filled every gathering. But my fight wasn't just about winning in court. I wanted to restore justice, mend family bonds, and protect others from similar betrayals. Once the court ruled in my favor and the property was returned to my parents' estate, I took an unexpected step. Instead of severing ties, I reached out to Emily privately. I told her that while her actions had caused deep harm, I believed in redemption and change. That conversation was difficult and emotional. Emily broke down, confessing that her insecurities and desire for control had driven her actions. It was a painful moment, but it opened the door for healing. Motivated by this journey, I decided to channel my experience into something bigger. I founded an organization dedicated to helping women protect their property rights and navigate complex family dynamics. Through workshops, legal clinics, and advocacy, I aimed to empower women who, like me, faced betrayal and injustice within their own families. Looking back, the battle was painful and exhausting, but it was also transformative. I not only reclaimed my family's legacy, but also found a deeper purpose, turning my pain into power and helping others do the same. Karma had indeed found its way, not through vengeance, but through justice, courage, and forgiveness. When the court finally ruled in my favor, returning the $9 million property to my parents' estate, a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. But the victory wasn't just about the legal win. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my family's honor, and most importantly, my own voice. In the weeks that followed, my parents and I began the slow process of healing. The wounds ran deep, but we were determined to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. My mother apologized for doubting me, and my father acknowledged the pain I had endured. Those moments of reconciliation meant more to me than any courtroom triumph. But I knew my journey wasn't over. The betrayal I faced was not unique. Too many women suffer in silence, losing their rightful inheritance or being pushed aside by those they once trusted. I wanted to make sure no one else had to endure what I did. That's why I founded Empower Her Legal Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping women protect their property rights and navigate the complexities of family law. Through education, free legal clinics, and advocacy, we strive to give women the tools and confidence to stand up for themselves. Seeing the first women who came to us reclaim their homes, their dignity, and their futures filled me with a sense of purpose I had never known before. My painful experience had transformed into a powerful mission, one that could change lives for the better. As for my family, though scars remain, we are stronger and more united than ever. The $9 million property is now managed transparently, and Emily, though distant, has started her own path of redemption. My story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments of betrayal and heartbreak, there is hope. Justice can prevail, wounds can heal, and new beginnings can emerge. I am Rachel, a daughter, a lawyer, and now a fighter for justice and empowerment. And this is only the beginning.